I don't know what class I want to play. I'm getting bored with everything. Warlock is starting to feel boring. Um, hmm. Honestly, if Seal of Command wasn't so fucking random, I'd probably play that. I'd play Ret, but Ret's getting boring. Maybe we play. What do we got on here? We got Feral Druid's looking good. Red is so fucking bad. Hmm. Fuck me, man. Do I want to do Feral? I don't fucking know. Never played vanilla when it was retail, but I did play on Astorius a little bit before it shut down. On retail, I've always played a Feral Druid and also did on Astorius until about level 20. I've heard people say it's trash and classic, and it looks like it too. I was just wondering if there's anything worth playing. I don't care if it's the best, but I don't want to play something completely useless. Thanks in advance. Feral Resto is one of the strongest PvP builds in World PvP and BGs at the early gear levels. Most people use it like a shitty rogue until they're half health, then as a shitty warrior until they're low health, then as a shitty warrior until they're low health, then a shitty priest until they die. Then come to forums and talk about how bad druids are in PvP. Feral PvP should be a combination of bleeds and spell dots, compiled with extreme ability and control fights throughout movement. You're more about outlasting instead of bursting. The ideal Part of the wild. I'm assuming that's part of the wild. Fight is opening with pounce, dropping your bleeds, and if fighting melee, swap to bear, stun, root, then toss spell dots. That's alone will do 50% of the damage, even geared players, depending on what you're facing. You'll even move far away and let dots work, or swap back to bear and maul them down. Hero doesn't scale well into the higher gear levels in PvP, so a lot of people switch to balance / resto. Similar playstyle relies more on spell dots, 1 or 2 heavy hits, then bleeds. Basically, you open with high damage, starfire, toss dots, keep moving until you have the opportunity to end the wrath starfire where they die to dots. Either way, you're mostly running into mercenary during fights. That's your strength. Very difficult to get used to. However, your toolkit answers to almost every form of control. Not useless at all. Looking around YouTube for vanilla feral PvP, they're outstanding as a flag carrier, although arguably better for that as a resto. Not completely useless, it's pretty alright. If you're focusing on topping the meters, go rogue or warrior. If you're focused on being the best tank, go warrior. If you want to be a druid, a feral druid is pretty alright. If you're looking to raid, on the bleeding edge of progression, feral druid probably isn't going to work out, but for more casual raids, it's great. Their tanking is great for 5-person dungeons, and their capability of tanking mini raid encounters, but most guilds will prefer a warrior for main tank. Many will gladly have a druid off tank for damage. They're not great, but they're not bad. They're the right gear. You do need the right gear. You can offer some considerable damage to your group. In PvP, feral is scary. It's hard to play a druid in PvP, but if you can master it, you can do very well. So the foremost flag carriers in Warsong Gulch, which gives them. Feral is good in 1v1 PvP, or I could say world PvP overall. You can deal pretty good burst damage and have good control in fights. The way you want to gear yourself is stamina agi. You don't want to have a hybrid gear, because that would just leave you with too low of damage, since you have For instance, I've been on a feral PvP. Check out my stream. I'm mostly streaming. Druid on K2 had a blast. I thought I stood a good chance against all classes when assuming equal gear. I think people don't like them because they think that they can just stay cat form and deal damage. You need to play like a hybrid, switch forms, cast spells, or heals. You can open on a warrior and cat, but you don't switch to bear, you'll have a terrible time. Feral druid are amazing in PvP. Once you have a bit of gear, you'll have a great time. Feral as PvP spec is pretty shit. Well, you can 1v1 very many classes, is abusing self-heal, innervate, bear form, etc. But in terms of BGs, there's no reason to go feral when you can go resto tank. You want a combination of tankiness and healing to carry the flag in Warsong Gulch and anchor and AB. They can be good, but you have to put a lot more effort than other classes. Alright. Apparently Feral is actually decent. Did not get Hurricane and fucking bro. I think we'll give Druid a try. See if we like it. It's better than Ret and Enhancement. And I don't like Warrior and Rogue. Well, I might try Warrior, but Feral. Feral's decent. It's like in the middle of the pack. PWL, they're fucking good. Oh, Molten Core, they're not. Nixia, they're not. Oh, BWL, they're kind of insane. Never anyone's first choice to fill a role of damage dealing, the Druid has an uphill slog to complete, with most of the other classes being outpaced at time even by the Shadow Priest, because they have access to some of the Bisquier long before most other classes. They tend to hold a place of power for a while, right up until they're ready for raiding, where they fall behind. Druid's main problem is that they were never designed to replace any one class at any specific role, but to supplement multiple roles and support other classes. So they can fill as off DPS, but won't ever get the damage quite as high as other classes' specs. I do that, or do I just fucking do Warrior, man? Because of their access to some of the most powerful weapons in game, warriors tend to dominate top damage rankings for DPS in World of Warcraft. This is especially true when they are outfitted with the best raid gear available. Winners and raw damage output. Thousand DPS. Jesus. There are fewer variations to talents that you could go for depending on your playstyle. The assumption with this guy is you're reading this either inexperienced with mage, new to hardcore. It's a combination of the two. Yeah, let's give... Hips out.
Hey, what's up guys? It's and we're actually taken in the 4th week of progression from well in the first tiers and scale well later vanilla 400. But let's move to yes, which is in the game at launch. Another video and when you the reasons and to frost video. All we can see just how powerful warriors are in relation to some of the other classes. They do about to populating a little rank pretty much #1 in all of vanilla WoW. And when you look at single target heals better towards the end. For one, there is no molten core and this DPS stand provided in my raid comp, no DPS loss, 70 point preses for example, and things like buttons are going to be dominant on a fully progressed server, so you can see how. Hey, what's up guys? It's Tips. So a couple of months back, I did a video where I took each of the classes in vanilla and compared them on a DPS and HPS basis in Molten Core. A lot of you guys requested that I do something similar for each individual raid tier, so today I decided instead of going directly into BWL, why don't we go into the final raid of vanilla to see the exact polar opposite of Molten Core, and that is Naxxramas. Now, as you probably already know, Naxxramas was the final raid in vanilla, so it's the final opportunity for DPS to gear up and get the best gear possible. So the DPS in this raid is pretty much the max DPS you are going to see in vanilla with that gear. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So just like last time, we have in front of us here the top 30 parses for warriors in Nax during vanilla, and as you can see, if we take the averages of all these 30 parses, we get approximately 869.19 DPS for warriors in Nax. Remember, if you watched my previous video, you would know that warriors only do 480 DPS in Molten Core, so it's a pretty significant bump, about double the damage, actually a little less than double the damage. And while that might seem like a lot, remember, Naxxramas is the last raid in vanilla. Do a great job, and overall, great DPS to bring to a raid. Now moving on to a class that I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be excited to see represented in the DPS charts this time, priest. Yes, this time around there is priest representation in Naxxramas. A big part of that has to do with patch 1.7, where the debuff slot limit increases from 8 to 16, making shadow priests a little bit more viable, obviously, and you do see priest representation in Nax. Here they're doing about an average of 360 DPS, which is admittedly a lot less than warriors. I mean, that's... And speaking of underpowered DPS classes, next up we have the Ret Paladin, which is a pretty big fan favorite. I know a lot of you guys plan on rolling Ret for vanilla. A lot of you guys have watched S-Fan's videos, his Warriors of the Light video, and you're very excited to swing the light as he does, I think. You would think that Paladins with their strength against undead would do really well in Nax, but unfortunately that is just not the case. And like priests, they come in pretty much on the tail end of the spectrum. In fact, probably all the way on the bottom. Unfortunately, we don't have that many parses to go off of because very few guilds actually bring Ret Paladins into Naxxramas because the requirements are so high. Based on the data we have here, the few parses we have here, it looks like Paladins are just way too low on the spectrum, unfortunately. And as a result, you might not see a lot of them in Nax, unfortunately. Most of the Paladins you will see will obviously be holy, but a little bit sad, around 320, 330 DPS, but hey, Ret Prio. But not all classes are that unlucky. In fact, some are far luckier than others. And in this case, because we went with the lowest DPS previously, we're going to go into the highest DPS class in Naxxramas. And that, of course, is the Mage. Now, Mages absolutely tear it up in Nax. I mean, they literally torch the DPS meters. That's because a lot of them are going fire, a lot of them are abusing the ignite mechanic, and obviously it yields some tremendous numbers. And mages average around 1,027 DPS in Nax based on these parses, which is a huge upgrade from the 360 DPS they were doing in Molten Core. The problem with Molten Core, of course, is that the vast majority of bosses in there are resistant to fire, so mages can't roll fire in Molten Core, but they can in AQ, they can in Nax, and they do a tremendous amount of damage, as you can see. And yes, mages do lead the pack, they do dethrone warriors in Naxxramas, but a lot of that has to do with the mechanics of the fight themselves, and that's something we'll talk about when we take a look at the graphs. But for now, mages, killer in Nax, guys, absolutely killer. And speaking of killer, let's talk about the most improved class that absolutely kills it in Naxxramas, and that is the Warlock. Now, aside from Ret Paladins and Shadow Priests, which weren't really represented in Molten Core, Warlocks are the most improved proportionately out of any of the other classes on this list, and that is because Warlocks do approximately 265 average DPS in Molten Core, whereas in Nax, they do about 742 DPS, which is, I think, more than triple the amount that they did in Molten Core, if I'm getting my math right. Maybe I'm not, sorry, it's a little bit early in the morning. But it's very close to triple that amount, more than mages even, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on if you're rolling a Warlock. But yeah, they do a tremendous amount of damage. They scale very well in Naxxramas. They don't have to worry about threat quite as much in Nax for a lot of reasons. But yeah, Warlocks, another great range DPS class, 700 DPS, very close to the Rogues. Definitely a great pick for any raid group, absolutely. But as great as scaling is for Warlocks in vanilla, unfortunately for Hunters, it's quite the opposite. It's actually really sad, unfortunately. Hunters do not do that much more DPS in Naxxramas that they do in Molten Core. So they don't really have a cause to complain, but let's move on. To the Druids, by the way, a class you probably didn't expect to see me mention here. Feral Druids in vanilla are surprisingly a thing. I mean, they weren't really a thing in Core, Molten Core progression, and they probably won't be a thing in Nax progression either, but assuming you've cleared Nax a couple of times, or maybe even progression, depending on what kind of guild you're running, you might see a couple of Feral Druids in your group if they know what they're doing, and believe it or not, based on the parses available here, they do more DPS than Ret Paladins. So, not that bad, Feral Druids, I guess. A lot weaker than the other melee classes, unfortunately, which is why they're not really brought to high-end content, but hey, they beat Ret Paladins here, so better than nothing. So when we line up all the classes side by side on this graph here, we see that Mages, obviously the most dominant class when it comes to DPS in Naxxramas. Paladin, unfortunately, a little bit weaker, and dare I say it, Warrior even, unfortunately, a little bit weaker. They lost their #1 spot in Molten Core, and I think that primarily has to do with the fact that Naxxramas has a lot of movement-intensive fights, especially for melee and vanilla. Like, you really have to move a lot in Naxxramas on a lot of different fights, admittedly, and I think that's one of the reasons why they take a little bit of a DPS hit here. And of course, on top of the fact that mages basically have an exploitable mechanic they can use in next, it is a reason why the melee does lag behind a little bit. But mages, congratulations. Rep paladins, I'm sorry. But don't worry, paladins, because you do make it up in the healing portion of Naxxramas, which is what we're going to talk about right now. Now, I do want to mention a criticism that I received in my
I just released a video on my YouTube channel, and I talked about a Palm Pyro build, and that build was the more fire-centric build, so I think it was 29 fire, 1 frost, and 21 arcane. And that spec gives you firepower, gives you blast wave, you're a little bit more fiery, a little bit more spicy. With that said, that build is still really good. Having blast wave is great for AoE. However, I have gone full YOLO, and I've been enjoying it quite a bit. So this spec, this Arcane Power Palm Pyro build, I think is great for a couple different reasons. So it's good, just like the Fire Arcane. Basically, just Palm Pyro is good in general. It's super good for just getting tags and just one-shotting people in World PvP. So if you see someone in World PvP, you press your button, and they die. And normally just a Power Blast, Fire Blast, maybe a Cone of Cold Arcane Explosion, but super duper good. Once again, you're going with the improved Fire Blast, but before I show you the exact talents for this build, I'm mainly going to be using this for like Alterac Valley. So when I play Alterac Valley, or if I'm soloing in like Warsong Gulch, even if I'm in a group in Warsong Gulch, I think this spec is going to be really good. I don't think it's necessarily just straight up better than like Arcane Frost, like the normal PvP spec, but it definitely has its benefits, and I think the main benefit is just stealing honorable kills. Having improved Fire Blast and having just Palm Pyro is super duper good. The one drawback with this build is I feel very squishy, so like when rogues open on me, I kind of rely on limited invulnerability potions, so I just pop those like candy. If a rogue opens on me, lip. Hunter starts shooting me, lip. Warrior charges me and he has a healer, lip. Just spam the lips. Spam the faps. But yeah, that's the one drawback of the build, but I still think it's really, really good, and it's been a really good change of pace from like the regular Ice Barrier build for me, because I just one-shot people, and it's great. And you can see my mana pool is absolutely insane. Yeah, so lip, fap often. Now for talents, this is what I decided to go with. Because my mana pool is so massive, I kind of dropped Arcane Concentration, and I wanted to pick up like all of the random arcane talents that I think are actually really, really good to help with your survivability a little bit. So the arcane talent points I went with are Arcane Subtlety 2, Arcane Focus 3, full magic absorption for the resist, and then I actually just picked up Magic Attunement for a little bit of help against magic damage, Arcane Explosion for AoEing, and just in general, I mean, you just spam instances this build normally. Sometimes I'll cast Scorch, but for the most part, I just Palm Pyro, Fire Blast, spam Arcane Explosion until they're dead. So yeah, I picked that up. Arcane Resilience, improved Mana Shield for a little bit more survivability against the rogues, Counterspell, and you can see I didn't get Meditation or Concentration just because I feel like my mana pool is so high, it's unnecessary. Arcane Mind, Presence of Mind, Arcane Instability, and then the Fire Talents, Impact, Fire Blast, Flamethrowing, Ignite, Incinerate, and Pyro Blast. And basically, like I said, I'm just spamming Fire Blast. If I get a sheep on someone, sometimes I'll cast a Fireball if I can, maybe a Pyro Blast, but for the most part, it's just spamming instants. It's the most easy mode, noob friendly. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, this is the most easy mode, noob friendly spec in the entire game. So if you're a noob, I love this spec. This is the perfect spec for you, okay? If you totally suck and you're okay with that, this is the best spec you can play. And that's not shots fired, I'm just trying to be helpful, okay? So if you're a noob, this is great. I personally went with 2 Elemental Precision because I don't have any hit on my gear, so I wanted to get hit capped via Elemental Precision, so that's what I did. But if you have more hit, you can drop that and put a point somewhere else. You can kind of choose whatever you want. You could put in Casino Ward to reflect fire spells, Burning Soul, Improve Scorch, whatever you really want. But yeah, this build super fun, and this is the build that I probably will be roaming around in Alterac Valley. Like when I'm bored, I'm going to be solo queuing Alterac Valley and just throwing pump pyros at people. And I think it should be a lot of fun. So definitely check out the build. It's what I've been playing primarily for my world PvP. If you prefer the Blast Wave build, it's also exceptionally good. It's just not as all in, and the all in build is actually kind of fun. All right, so hopefully this video helps you guys. It's just
I love these videos. So true. They just run right by each other. He's getting dazed by the goats. He's got 12. That's so true.
Oh, you come back and you charge me. Yo, you come. Auto? Yo, come. Swing timer now? Intercept? Dual building jutsu. Oh, stands no chance. Okay. Dual.
Genocide deniers.
Welcome back to Peers Organised. I'm joined by my pack now, the founder of Within Our Lifetime, Nadine Kiswani, and the broadcaster and journalist Emily Austin. Okay, Emily, what did you make of that exchange I just had with Loki?
I just dislike how you ask a clear-cut question and the question never seems to be addressed on any of your interviews, quite frankly. It seems like they use the airtime as an opportunity to deny the question and just spread their own.
Damn. What do I want to play? I don't fucking know, man. Vanilla WoW World List.
I'll quickly just like, dang, you should. Bro, that's weird. My brain is like, what the hell is that? Anyway, rapid fire. Probably something like here, maybe, or here. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it.
Do we try Feral Druid? Fuck it, dude. Let's do it. Do an alliance one. Broken Tooth. Send him some money. Some bags, some money.
Here there.
Hey there.
What's your neck?
Oh, here we go with the bullshit. How did that not sell, bro? Like, how? Ugh. Broken Tooth. And gold. No, we'll send him 30. I'll get him more than everything he needs.
Where would you like to fly to?
Forge.
Narrative, and it's pointless. The debate is pointless. It's a one-sided conversation, and there's no actual conversation. It's, here's my question. Oh, but what about this pin?
Right. I mean, Nadine, my problem with it was I've interviewed some pro-Palestinian voices in the last 2 weeks who were emphatic immediately. Let me make it clear. What happened on October the 7th was a disgusting terrorist attack, an abomination. And then they go on to talk about the plight of the Palestinian people and maybe the historical conflict and so on. And I have great respect for people that do that. I've got to say, I really struggle with anyone who just cannot have the humanity to start by saying what happened on October the 7th was appalling, an outrage. Do you feel it was?
I think Palestinians are tired of that being the starting point constantly, when right now there are 6,000 Palestinians who have been killed in Gaza, over 2,500 of them children, 33 mosques leveled, hospitals leveled. So we're tired of that being the main goal of the conversation.
It's not the main goal.
Part of it.
It's the starting point of this war. Yeah, but hang on. It's the starting point of this war. It's not the main goal of what I want the conversation to be.
The starting point was when 750,000 Palestinians were ethnically cleansed, were expelled from their homelands during the Nakba, which my grandparents fled Palestine because of the Nakba, because of the massacres and the rapes that they heard. So to me, that's the starting point. That's my experience.
Let's go with that for a minute. Let's start with the Nakba, because the only Nakba is the part that people forget to address. 1948, after the partition plan, the Jewish state called in the Arabs to live prosperously and peacefully in the land. But what happened the very next day, not even 24 hours later, is the alleged Nakba, where the Arab leagues declared war on the Jewish state that we just agreed to have our two-state solution. And what did they tell their people? Leave the state, let us get the land back, let's ethnically cleanse the Jewish people, and once we defeat them in this war, you will come back to the land. So the only Nakba was a catastrophe that you guys, the Arab leagues, waged a war that you could not win, and that is why, I'm sorry, your grandparents had to leave their home.
That's completely ahistorical. I don't represent the Arab League. I'm Palestinian, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Palestinians.
But why do you find it hard to just start, given this war, this latest war that's erupted, began with a terror attack on October the 7th, why is it hard to not just say, that was terrible?
I don't see you asking Regev if he condemned the slaughter of innocent civilians.
You can't do it, can you?
No, she can't, because she's the same woman who said every Zionist before they die should hear pop, pop before they die. So she probably agrees with the massacre, so why would she condemn them?
I think the media is part of manufacturing consent.
We're talking about you.
I'm speaking here, and I'm not interested in speaking to genocide deniers. The media is manufacturing consent for genocide against the Palestinian people, just like they did with the lie of the weapons of mass destruction that was used to justify the murder of over 1 million Iraqis. And there's been many lies that have been repeated all over the news, including on your show, where CNN had to rescind, and even you said in subsequent interviews about the 40 beheaded babies. I haven't seen a single shred of evidence. Seen a single shred of evidence about these accusations coming out.
I was actually deliberately misquoted. You raised an interesting point there about this issue of the beheaded babies from the October 7th terrorist attack. I was accused by Bassem Youssef of saying on air that 40 babies had been beheaded. I never said that. I said there were reports that 40 babies had been killed and that some had been beheaded. That appears to have been borne out by other reporting, but I haven't seen the full details of every single casualty, so I don't know for sure. I certainly never said 40 babies were beheaded, but that clip has gone around the world, and I've been bombarded with abuse based on an absolute lie.
I don't see a big difference between saying 40 babies were beheaded versus maybe, you know,
some. You don't think there's between 40 and some?
Because at the same, that's the lie that's being used to kill 6,000 Palestinians in Gaza right now.
Okay, well, let me ask Emily. All right, let me ask Emily this question. I've asked Nadine, can she say she was horrified by what happened on October?
She wasn't.
And she will not say that, which I think is very disappointing. Would you, in return, when you look at what's been happening in Gaza in the last 2 weeks, do you find that appalling, that the loss of young lives, of babies, of children, of women, innocent people who had nothing to do with the terror attacks?
Absolutely, 100%. Any death of innocent civilians should be condemned privately and publicly, and I cannot believe I have to say that. So yes, every children that is being collateral damage, every woman that's becoming collateral damage, my heart aches for them.
Why can't you do that?
I think we all agree that the loss of innocent life is sad, but I believe that the loss of innocent life wouldn't be an issue.
It's okay when
Israel
it's the
didn't
Jews.
ethnically cleanse Palestine to begin with in 1948.
Well, they didn't, and
that is the source of this. To me, I go to the source of the issue.
But
what happened on October 7th isn't the beginning
It doesn't justify fucking psychopaths.
Okay, Nadine, ask me.
That's not the starting point.
Why don't you ask me what do I think of that? You have a lot of preconceived views of what you think I think. I agree with you. I think the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in 1948 is the root cause of all of this.
Well, you can thank the Arab leagues for declaring war on the two-state solution.
There are myriad people at fault in the next 70 years.
We were ethnically cleansed from our land. It's not like Jewish people were ethnically cleansed from the land of Palestine. They colonized it from other people. I'm actually discussing with him. I refuse to speak to genocide deniers.
I
refuse to speak to genocide deniers.
She's not a genocide denier. She's not.
Do you know the definition of a genocide?
No, I do know the definition of a genocide. Gaza currently is a concentration camp because the Palestinians.
You think Hamas wages genocide?
I believe that. Look at the numbers. Look at the Palestinians who have been killed.
Hamas's stated
purpose. We're not here to talk about any specific
is to eradicate
entities.
the Jewish people. It's their stated purpose.
The first thing that we should be fighting
that's literally
is for
genocide.
Palestinians to be returned home to their homeland.
That is literally
talk about the specific
Hamas's stated purpose is literally the definition of genocide. It's wiping out people based on their ethnicity.
The hostages who were released had otherwise to say.
Oh, 2 out of 250. Let's applaud Hamas. You can't. Okay.
The hostages that Israel didn't even want to take to begin with. They didn't even want to take them back.
But they did take them. The Palestinians need to divorce
as they bomb Gaza, risking their own hostages.
I'm gonna keep speaking.
They don't care about killing them.
Let her
needs
speak.
to be liberated from Hamas, because when your governing body is a terrorist organization, that is the root of the problem, not the alleged ethnic cleansing.
The ethnic
that
cleansing of
happened in
Palestine happened
1948.
decades before Hamas was even created.
Let me ask you a
What
question.
exactly
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that Hamas should stay in power in Gaza?
I'm not here to talk about political organizations. No, I don't care about these questions because my people are being ethnically cleansed. Because I see the faces of 2,500 Palestinian children on social media every day, charred, mutilated, having chemical weapons against them. So this is going to be my priority on this show, just like any Palestinian around the world is speaking up for our cause.
You will also
stop using babies as human shields. Stop
It's the
making
most
your
densely
rocket
populated
launchers
region in the world.
Yeah, but you will also know,
2.3 million Palestinians, but half of them are homeless.
Let me respond to you.
This is a ridiculous argument.
My question is whether you think it is good for the Palestinian people that Hamas stay in charge, given the scale of the terror attacks they carried out, given the inevitable response that's come from Israel, with the inevitable loss of Palestinian lives, given the displacement now of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians out of the north of Gaza into the south. And who knows what's going to happen? The devastation to Gaza and to Gazan people has been unbelievable, and yet entirely predictable once Hamas decided to carry out the terror attack on the scale they did. I simply ask you, do you think that's a good thing for Palestine?
Is it not predictable that there will continue to be resistance to oppression as long as apartheid, occupation, ethnic cleansing, genocide continues to exist? Whether Hamas exists or not is an irrelevant question, because as long as oppression against the Palestinian people
How can you end that oppression as you see it? And many would agree with you.
Why don't we address the oppression first? She called Israel an apartheid state, so I'd like to just define what apartheid is. It is segregation, like what South Africa is facing, but the alleged apartheid is because Israel set up security measures after the numerous bus bombings in 2000 and set up checkpoints, which they got very insulted by. But it's the same way that airports now require security after 9/11, reasonably so. So it is taking security precautions. Secondly, we have 3 Arabs, and if I'm not mistaken, Muslims currently sitting in the Knesset. Does that sound like apartheid to you?
Let me quote the Israeli defense minister and how they view Palestinians. He said that we are fighting against human animals, that our soldiers will not be accountable for anything. There will be no fuel, no food, no water, and Gaza will cease to exist. This is what Yoav Gallant, the Israeli defense minister, has said. This is how they refer to
I think one of the big problems,
this is beyond apartheid.
I think one of the big problems leading up to this has been...
That's not apartheid. That's
well, let me just say what I think.
That's the language of ethnic cleansing and genocide, beyond apartheid.
Let me make the point I want to make, which is I think one of the problems leading up to this is that Benjamin Netanyahu, for political expediency to remain in power, has packed his cabinet with a bunch of right-wing headbangers whose rhetoric actually was incredibly incendiary and incredibly unhelpful. So I do think that. And
you know what? Even if you're right, unfortunately, the narrative that it's about the land, I'm sorry, the Hebron massacres in 1927, 1929, that was not about Israel. It is about the murder of Jews all over the world. National Jihad Day that I had to worry about being in Manhattan last Friday was not about Israel.
You mean the day where we had a protest where thousands of New Yorkers came out? That's not a national day of jihad. You're talking about a national day of jihad. She's afraid for her life. Who was killed in America? Who was killed? A 6-year-old Palestinian boy was killed in Chicago. Was stabbed 26 times.
It was appalling.
26 times.
Nadine,
you're talking about being afraid for your life. I'm constantly afraid for my life as a Palestinian.
I can say to those examples you just gave, they are appalling. Appalling. But I also find it very dispiriting that you can't just take a moment to say what happened to the people in Israel on October the 7th was also appalling.
But it came out of her mouth. She wants the Zionists dead, so how is she supposed to condemn it?
It would not have happened had Israel not initiated this, and you know this from the beginning. I think we always need
Israel
to go back
did nothing
to
that warranted what happened on October the 7th. Nothing.
Israel?
Nothing. The scale of that terror attack, it's like saying that America brought 9/11 on itself. I remember people saying that in the streets afterwards.
I think she
and that was
wants to go
equally
back in time and
that
yell
was
at the
equally
United Nations for
equally
fighting the
repellent to me. A terror attack is a terror attack is a terror attack. What Hamas did that day was unconscionable.
We have
anyone
no state,
with an
no
ounce of
government,
humanity
no army.
has to say that.
Anything that Palestinians Palestinians do to defend themselves will always be categorized as a terrorist attack, because this is the position that the world has put us in.
Right,
I'm
final
not
point
responding
to
to your questions.
I have a question. When was the last time Palestine had full sovereignty over the land? Give me a date or even a year that Palestine had their own government.
I'm not going to engage with genocide deniers. If you want to make a point, you can say that.
She wants to be a child. How are you an attorney? God. Can you ask her, when did Palestine have full sovereignty over the land?
When did Palestine have full sovereignty?
When did full sovereignty? And I see that you're taking your talking points from her.
Well, you don't want to talk to me.
It's a question.
He has to do
you don't have to answer
it. Do
it.
you want to answer me and stop being a child? If you have a Jew
What
in
the
court, are you not going to represent them as an attorney?
This has nothing to do with Jewish people.
No, it does.
We actually have Jewish people protesting on the streets of New York City.
Yeah, but hang on.
In defense of Palestine.
Okay, let's not all shout over each other, but it has everything to do with Jewish people when Hamas's stated intent is to wipe Jewish people off the face of the earth.
I'm not the spokesperson of Hamas.
No, but
I don't
you
know
should
why
be able to say that's wrong.
This conversation, that's all you're talking
Because
about.
you're defending
No, I'm here to flip the narrative and make sure that
know
people
why
know
we're all
that
sitting
this
here?
government is funding Israel to the tune of $10 million a day, $3 million a year, and they're asking for an additional $14 billion in aid.
Okay.
The bombs that are being manufactured by U.S. companies are what's being dropped on Gaza. The world is watching a genocide happening and is not doing anything about it. So the most important thing for me to do right now is to stop this genocide. And questions about Hamas are not going to do that. It's condemning the genocide of the Palestinian people and condemning the UK and US government that we live under, that I pay taxes to, that are killing Palestinian people every day. And the UN already said that Gaza would be unlivable by 2020. The UN had already said that most of the hospitals in Gaza, at least 2/3 of the healthcare facilities, are not being able to provide. Are not able to
I think it's wrong.
So it's
I think
not
it's
just
wrong,
the
Nadine.
airstrikes and the missiles that are going to kill people. The siege and blockade has been killing people,
You
and
should
it
be
will
able,
continue
Nadine,
to people.
you should be able to say that that is all wrong, which I believe it is wrong, and you should also be able to say that what happened on October the 7th was wrong. A human being who cares equally about the lives of all human beings would be able to say that
I do
both
care
those
about
things
the
are wrong.
lives of all human beings equally, and that's why exactly I believe that in order to preserve human life, you must end the siege on Gaza, you must end the blockade, you must end the settler colonization of Palestine.
Listen,
Free Palestine from Hamas.
It's a passionate debate, and I understand why emotions run high. I appreciate you both coming in. Thank you very much indeed. Come back. Let's continue the debate. You only get to peace in these things, I can promise you, by thrashing these things out. People that hate each other have to come together and they have to try and find places of compromise. Otherwise, you never get to peace. 70 years this has been going on. 70 years.
You need justice to get peace.
You need justice and you need compromise and you need both sides to acknowledge when bad things happen, you can say that is unacceptable. On October the 7th, if any tiny part of you says that was acceptable or there's a reason for it, I can't have that. But thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. Thank you. Well, joining me now to discuss this is the founder of the world's most influential progressive online channel, The Young Turks, a Democratic presidential hopeful. And that's Cenk Uygur. Cenk, great to have you on the program. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. I've been following your tweets with interest this week. You've been getting increasingly angry, I think it'd be fair to say. You said, I'm now enormously frustrated by US and Israeli government's barbaric acts in Gaza. I will not be shy in sharing that opinion on Piers Morgan's show today. Why are you so frustrated?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I didn't expect the framing that you put on this segment, and it's framing like that, that's disgusting. So I don't see what this has anything to do with anti-Semitism. I formed Young Turks at TYT with two Jewish friends who are some of my friends growing up. We've known each other and been brothers for over 40 years now. So I think what Hamas did is disgusting. I cry for those Israeli innocent civilians. But do I see you guys crying for Palestinians? I mean, Chris Christie was just on here treating it like it's no big deal because what, Palestinian lives don't matter? I think the real bigotry here is saying that Palestinians, we can kill 3 times as many of them already. And this is the appetizer. Netanyahu and his barbaric government have not even started the entree of murder and death and mayhem they're about to do. And that's somehow okay, killing 3 times as many Palestinian civilians, let alone the occupation, which is bigotry by definition. We say that everyone in the world can defend themselves, can have their own state, can have sovereignty, except the Palestinians. And the reasoning behind that is the Palestinians are what? They're what? And the idea is that they are savages and that Muslims are too violent and cannot control themselves, so they must be occupied for 56 brutal, disgusting years. So I've had enough of the bigotry against Muslims and Palestinians, and I need you to speak out against that instead of covering every outrageous, atrocious action of the right-wing government of Israel and going, oh, it's anti-Semitism. No, and there is global anti-Semitism. There's anti-Semitism here in this country. 2 synagogues were shot up, Pittsburgh and in Southern California. We fight against that all the time. But then whenever Israel is criticized, people go, oh no, it's anti-Semitism. No, there's real anti-Semitism.
Okay, Jack,
and instead of attacking that, all you guys ever do is hide behind the veil of anti-Semitism. Do you know why Palestinians might not like Israelis? Because they've been oppressed for 56 straight years.
I hear you. I hear you. And let me respond. A, I'm not you guys. I don't think I fit into any neat fit on this issue at all. B, I've actually covered this story, I think, more fairly than most people. I've had many pro-Palestinian voices I've given a huge platform for. They've been getting enormous audiences, from Bassem Youssef to others, and I've done that quite deliberately because I think these voices are important to be heard, including yours. I certainly wasn't accusing you, by the way, or your organisation of anti-Semitism. I just think I have found it, as somebody who's always identified as liberal myself, I found it very dispiriting to see people who call themselves liberals, whose instant response, it seemed to me, to one of the worst terror attacks we've ever seen was to immediately side with the place where these attacks have been launched from. Now, I don't tar all Palestinians with the brush of being Hamas at all. And in fact, the sooner Hamas are out of there, the better for the Palestinian people and the world. But I just think the only human response you can have is, as you did, by the way, to your credit, is it was disgusting what happened on October the 7th. Now, the question then becomes, what is a proportionate response by Israel? Not just to the terror attacks of October the 7th, but obviously there is now a huge ongoing escalation in what has been, as you rightly say, a 56-year war, effectively, in varying degrees over that period. And that's where I think I'm struggling to see how ground invasion by Israel, with all that would entail, particularly mass deaths of Palestinian civilians, how that is going to do anything for any peaceful resolution to this. I think it will have the opposite effect.
Yes, so let's take it one at a time. First of all, as you rightly point out, on Young Turks, we covered the atrocious actions of Hamas right from the get-go, and we condemned it as fully as anyone can possibly condemn it. Because not only are they killing those poor, innocent Israelis that didn't do anything, those little babies and the grandmothers, it's disgusting what they do. But on top of that, they're ruining the Palestinian cause. They've burned the moral high ground to cinders. And then on top of that, they smear all people of Muslim background like myself. And then it unleashes this bigotry of anti-Muslim bigotry throughout the world that I'm sick of. So screw Hamas and their barbarism, okay? Now, in terms of a proper reaction, yes, you need to get those hostages out. So now let's look at I'm going to suggest what to actually do. I'm going to be constructive. But first, let's look at the unconstructive solution that Israel had. Dropping bombs on residential buildings. 50 ambulances have been hit. 10 out of 25 hospitals don't operate anymore. The incubators are about to run out of energy. There's 45 babies that might die today. The parents I just read on CNN are writing the names of the kids on their calves, on their legs, so that if they are killed in a bombing and they're mutilated, they can find their bodies. Imagine writing the name of your child on their legs so that you could find them in the rubble after Israel or any government drops a bomb on them. And I need the West to understand something. Bombs kill people. And do you know how they kill people? They incinerate them alive, or their heads explode. So what happened in Israel was a disaster and disgusting. But you have to be equally honest and equally outraged at the immorality of incinerating babies and grandmothers and aunts and uncles, which is what we're doing right now. America cannot keep sending aid for death and destruction. Enough of the occupation. End it today. End it today. It's monstrous. Okay, I'm going to
Jake, let me ask you this. I completely understand your passion and your anger. I completely get this. I, like you, want to see some resolution at the end of this horror that we're witnessing. How do you get rid of Hamas if you don't do it the way Israel are currently doing it? How do you actually eradicate what has become a nihilistic ISIS-style terror group who've quite deliberately, in my estimation, committed an outrage of such appalling scale that they knew that this would goad Israel into this kind of response? So why they did that, what is motivating it, who might be putting them up to it, who's helped them prepare for this, these are all questions we don't know the answers to yet. But it seems to me that Israel could, if it's not careful, be being lured into a massive trap here. And I hope that is not the case. But I'm curious, how do you get rid of Hamas if you don't do it the way Israel is currently doing it, albeit with horrific collateral damage in the face of thousands of innocent Palestinians being caught up in the bombing?
Yeah. So let me give you a short-term answer, long-term answer. And a lot of people are not going to like these, but these are realistic ways that you minimize civilian casualties. You do what America did with the Osama bin Laden raid. We didn't go drop a nuke on Pakistan. We didn't go destroy 6,000 residential buildings in the middle of Pakistan. We sent in special forces. Is it more dangerous to the special forces? Of course. That's the point of special forces. Try to find the hostages. Does it look like Israel's trying to find the hostages? If I have a family member that's a hostage, I'm disgusted by what Netanyahu's doing now. How do you know they're not in the buildings you're dropping bombs on? How do you know they're not in the tunnels you're dropping bombs on? How do you know they're not in the hospitals you're dropping bombs on? So this, if you want the hostages rescued, every rational human being can agree this is not the way to do it. This is the way to do death and destruction for the sake of death and destruction. It's collective punishment, it's genocide against Palestinians, and the world has to speak out. So my way is not pleasant either. It involves a lot of folks dying on both sides. I understand that. Those are super hard choices. But go find Hamas. Go find the hostages. Go rescue them instead of wantonly, indiscriminately, killing after killing. And let's be honest, when you drop a bomb and a kid's head explodes and a grandmother is incinerated, that is terrorism. Killing 3 times as many civilians as Hamas is terrorism. And it is the same if it is done by a government. Send in as many special forces as you got. We should send in whatever you got to actually do the job at hand instead of what Netanyahu is doing, which is to kill these people to what? Send a message. And think about how unrealistic that is. And think about why his method has a 0% chance of working. How are the Palestinians supposed to rise up against Hamas? How would they prove they're against Hamas? Hamas ended all elections. Hamas ended democracy. So how are the Palestinians supposed to cry uncle? They're already crying uncle, but it's never enough for the bloodthirsty Netanyahu. No, more death of Palestinians, more babies killed. That's what his answer is. And it's this, and the United States of America, I'm running for president here. There's no way in the world I would allow this. Sending $105 billion. And it doesn't even go to Israel, Ukraine, or Taiwan. It goes to the defense contractors that bribe these greedy American politicians and then get most of that money. And so the long-term answer is 1967 borders and the biggest walls you've ever seen in your entire life. And no one's allowed to cross to either side. But the Palestinians get their state. It is unconscionable for them not to get their state. And if you're a moral person, of course you believe that the Palestinians are not the only people in the world that cannot govern themselves. If you say that, you are being, by definition, bigoted and a racist. We have to have a 2-state solution immediately. If 56 years of occupation and brutalizing these people is not enough, is 57 years going to be enough? Is 156 years going to be enough? I'm asking Israel, not out of hate, out of love. So many of my friends that I grew up with are Jewish. This is not good for them. This is not good for anybody. Please look into your hearts, look and be the moral people that I know you can be. I've been to Passover dinners where you pray for your oppressors. Now, it breaks my heart, but I gotta tell you, you gotta pray for those you are oppressing. And to say that you are not oppressing the Palestinians after brutalizing them for 56 long years You're kidding yourself. And as a friend and an ally, I'm trying to get you to wake up and snap out of this trance. You cannot keep doing this. It is ruining your moral fiber.
Cenk, Yuga, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. I'm sorry it was your first appearance on this program under these circumstances, but I hope it won't be your last. I think you're an important voice in this, and I do appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Connell and Grayson take their viewers to Ice Crown Citadel. Hardcore My Way episode 6 recording.
Why would we have different dormitories for races?
Yeah.
Culture.
Segregation is what you're arguing for, my friend. Would you support white-only dormitories?
But you didn't go to college, so I guess you wouldn't know.
Remember the book and you didn't. You paid for it.
You're on record for stating, and I quote, "This is the gayest generation of America." Opponents seem to believe you have homosexual tendencies.
Welcome back to Rattlesnake TV, guys. In this video, we are going to be watching Charlie Kirk repeatedly light up a few students who.
What's up, man? We're on the journey of finding the class that we enjoy from 1 to 60.
This is a great one, so
I'm getting bored of everything,
To address your previous assertion that
and I'm hoping this class can turn me around.
critical race theory is not being taught in schools. It is a academic theory that's pretty much delegated only to higher academia. They're not teaching it in schools. Your explanation of it was an explanation. You addressed the real history behind it, unlike most people. And why, if race means nothing, does it affect our history? Say 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. Why is there such evil history with something that supposedly means nothing?
Okay, so first of all, you're wrong. It is being taught in elementary schools. I'll give you an example. Not only is it being taught, it's being enforced. So in Denver, there is a playground where they say white families not allowed. Would you support that?
That seems like a ridiculous edge case.
So I'll give you another example. Actually, in the National Education Association's training manual, which is the largest teacher union in the country, they had a seminar on how to teach critical race theory to kids. That sounds like it's in our schools, doesn't it?
What that is it's literally just common sense. It's saying that this is real history. This is what has happened in the past.
Right. So
that matters.
Okay, got it. So, for example, would you say that black-only dormitories is wrong?
It certainly creates a sense of community. I don't see any problem with that. We have sororities. We have male-only dorms.
Right. So racial differences are irrelevant and immaterial. Chromosomal differences actually do matter. But let me ask you a question. Are there differences between races?
No, not biologically.
Then why would we have different dormitories for races?
Culture.
Segregation is what you're arguing for, my friend.
No, sir.
How is it not segregation to have blacks in their own dorm?
You've just pigeonholed me. You've essentially just you've distracted from my original argument.
No, you did that to yourself. Let's reemphasize. So Ibram X. Kendi argues, who is one of the leading thinkers of critical theory, race theory, discrimination today to atone for discrimination of yesterday. We have black-only graduation ceremonies at Columbia University, black-only dormitories across the country, for example, at Western Washington University. Can you join me today in saying black-only dormitories are evil, wrong, and it's segregation?
You still haven't answered my question about why does this history simultaneously mean nothing?
Well, I'm happy to answer that, but the fact you're dodging segregation in America, why is that?
I'm arguing against segregation.
So you're against black-only dormitories?
Yes.
Well, you said it was a force of community, and then for your not for critical race theory...
That's an option. We have choice.
Oh, so you could choose to segregate.
That's a pigeonhole.
What do you think of white-only dormitories? Would you support white-only dormitories?
Everybody has a choice.
So I think white-only and black-only anything is evil and wrong. That's why I hate critical theory and critical race theory, because when it's put in practice, you start to discriminate people based on race. So we're now south of the Mason-Dixon line in North Carolina. We did a lot of work to get rid of segregation in this country. Why are you trying to bring it back?
What work?
The Civil Rights Act of 1964.
In this state?
Yeah, actually, in this state. Are there black-only bathrooms out there I'm unaware of, or white-only bathrooms?
Nah.
Right. A lot of work was done in the state.
Fuck you, your face is small.
Well, thanks for being here. They always go to insults when they lose the argument. God bless you, my friend.
That has to be the lamest, most chicken shit attempt to insult somebody I've ever seen. And I love how he said, oh,
Your
you've
face is
pigeonholed
small?
me. That's a funny way to put it. Actually, no. He simply used your own logic against you to put you in a position where you're confronted with your own cognitive dissonance. It's so funny to me to have situations like this, where you've got somebody who is in no uncertain terms arguing for segregation. He definitely just said that black-only dorms create communities. Okay, so with that logic, then the Jim Crow era, they were just creating communities. Same with apartheid South Africa. And then Charlie comes in with the white-only dormitories question, which is essentially like launching a grenade at this young man's worldview. Just think about how badly this destroys his argument. Because if he supports white-only dormitories, like he said with black-only dorms, that they're just creating communities, all of a sudden he is a white supremacy apologist. It would mean that he wouldn't get invited for a soy latte with the liberal arts gang between classes anymore. But because he's being confronted with this blatant double standard, he has to say, everyone has a choice. Isn't it funny how quickly they can just shapeshift from communist to libertarian like that? And that's why it's very important to be consistent, guys. Now on to the next bit, guys, where remarkably, a surprise guest in circa 2010, Justin Bieber gets up to actually debate Charlie.
Okay, I just wanted to real quick ask you, can you clarify your definition of critical race theory?
Yeah, Derek Bell's. So what he wrote in 1991, Intro to Critical Race Theory. What's in that book?
The whole book is your definition.
How about this? The one I used. Call everything racist till you control it.
Oh, so wait, but then that literally means that critical race theory can mean basically anything you want it to, right? Like,
only if you're calling it racist till you control it. I mean, I'm defining critical race theory in the modern American context as that. We can go back to Herbert Marcuse, One-Dimensional Man, or Jacques Derrida, or Michel Foucault, but the most agreed upon the most agreed upon academic theory is Intro to Critical Race Theory, 1991 by Derek Bell.
Yeah. Wait, but...
Are you familiar with that literature?
Well, yeah, I've read the book, but I don't remember anything about it. It was for, like, a college class. Like, let's be honest, nobody remembers the books they read in college.
Sounds like a great value proposition to go to college.
Nah, it is, trust me.
Wait.
But, like, well, but you didn't go to college, so I guess you wouldn't know.
It's true, I didn't.
So
let me ask you, though, does that mean that I'm not able to have this conversation with you? Because I actually remember the book and you didn't, and you paid for it.
Get fucking wrecked.
So, first of all, I didn't pay for it. There's these things called scholarship.
Oh, so somebody else paid for you not to remember the book that you're supposed to read. Oh, some wealthy donor or taxpayer paid for you to not remember the book.
I have a question. Who are your wealthy donors?
Many of them are in this room. Thank you guys for your wonderful support, by the way.
Interesting.
We have over 130,000 grassroots donors at Turning Point USA. 130,000. I think we have some people in the back that chip in $5, $10, $15. God bless you. 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 We are a grassroots-funded operation. But let me give you another example. I'll give you 5 things that critical race theory believes. Number 1, the notion that racism is ordinary and everywhere. Number 2, the idea of interest convergence, otherwise known as intersectionality. Number 3, the social construction of race, meaning that there is a social construction around race in our society. The 4, idea of storytelling and counter storytelling. Number 5 is that no matter how hard you work, no matter how hard you do, you cannot remove racism from your society. Those are 5 pillars of critical race theory based on Derek Bell's Intro to Critical Race Theory. Does that ring a bell?
Yes, but like, okay, so let me stick with this. What do you think?
Oh, farewell.
We'll edit that out.
My oh, my bad. Wait, am I not allowed to?
It's not encouraged.
Oh, okay,
Not
sorry.
encouraged.
What was the third point? My mind is dying.
The social construction of race?
The social construction of race. Do you not think that race is at least partially socially constructed?
Depends how you define it.
So, like, what defines where one race ends and where one race begins?
Depends who you're asking. I think race is completely and totally irrelevant. Do you think race is relevant?
No.
Okay, then why are we talking about race all the time, and why are we talking about critical race theory?
Well, you brought it up at first when you were doing your speech.
Right,
so,
where I said it was a lie from the pit of hell that we should repudiate and stop talking about all the time?
Oh dear. I was wondering why I hadn't seen Ibarran yet today.
You're on
And I've always
scholarship?
warned him about those
Sorry, what?
spiders.
Nothing. Sorry, go ahead.
We may be able to help Ivern, as I know of an antidote that should help with the poison.
So, to answer your question,
It requires some ingredients, though, before I can make it. I'll need
I
hyacinth
don't think the
mushrooms.
race means anything, and
You
I
can
guess
find
you don't
these
need them,
growing
right?
under trees,
Right.
or you
So
may collect them from
then
the Grell south of here. They seem
why
to have taken
do
a liking
you
to
keep
them.
bringing up race
I'll
whenever
also
you're
need
on or
moon-petal
speaking on a
lilies,
stage?
which
I
only
am not
grow
speaking
around
on a stage
watery
bringing up
pools.
critical race theory.
The
You
last
are.
I'm bringing up how
ingredient
critical
may
race
prove
theory
the most
destroys
difficult.
society and how we
From
shouldn't
the
talk
very
about race all the
spiders
time.
that poisoned Ivern,
Okay.
collect webwood
But
ichor.
you're bringing up race.
You know, critical race theory.
Druid
not
trainer
race.
up
Okay,
top.
so what's the second word in that?
Yeah, it's race, but it's a theory of how to view race, of which is a mind virus pathogen destroying America, of which I said again, just to re-emphasize for those in the back, we could replay the tape, we'd throw the red flag, we'll watch it over again.
Hunter trainer
I
Andrew.
said that what?
Welcome, my
Race
brother.
means nothing.
If you
I
are
care
here
about
to
your
train,
actions,
then
your
I
character,
will
and most importantly,
train
your soul.
There will
Thank
be
you
a
for being here tonight.
Thank you.
So 2010 Justin Bieber tries to play the old "I'm on a scholarship and you didn't go to college" card on Charlie. Oof. Wow, that one could not have backfired any harder. Now I understand that he's probably nervous in front of the crowd, and in the everyday situation he's probably a little bit more articulate than this. But bro, don't come out with the appeals to authority. And the point he's trying to and struggling to make about calling Charlie a hypocrite basically for talking about race is one that annoys me. Our culture is totally and utterly saturated by discussions about race relations. And normal people don't really want to be having this discussion because they understand that it's an arbitrary aspect that doesn't really define you. We would way rather be having discussions about merit and competence and getting to the nucleus of what really makes people thrive. But we've been dragged into this petty, boring, low IQ discussion about race. And the problem with critical race theory is that it makes everything about race. It makes people see the world through the lens of race. And when this phenomenon is happening, we need to be aware of it and we need to be providing an antidote. If you don't attack the disease, then you can't provide the cure. The cure will always attack the disease. And guys like Charlie and James Lindsay and Chris Rufo have been doing a great job in shining a light on this subversive ideology for exactly what it is. And let's face it, we have to be very careful when it comes to our information diet because there is no shortage of propaganda out there, which is why I'm so glad to be partnering with the sponsor of today's video, Ground News. These days, it's becoming more and more obvious that you cannot trust the mainstream media anymore.
It's extremely dangerous to our democracy.
But the positive thing is that we have a company like Ground News to keep us armed and dangerous when it comes to current events. They're a game-changing startup that I've been using since way before I had any YouTube subscribers, and when dyeing your hair blonde was cool.
An interesting one that I follow is called Ground News.
The reason why Ground News is such an incredible tool is because it's so important to be able to see both sides of the coin, and Ground News solves this problem for you. They have really clever features such as my favorite, which is the blind spot. Check this out. I can click on the blind spot, then I can scroll down to see all of the stories and how they're being reported by left, center, and right. And then boom, what do you know? The Biden administration imposing gender identity pronoun mandates on employees. And you can see here I can click on left, see that no one's reporting it. Center, no one's reporting it. But on the right, there are some people reporting it. And just on the right here, you've got a feature that I love, which is the bias distribution chart, which is a visual representation of all of the different
That's a pretty
outlets
cool
that are covering
fucking
the story
website,
and where they
actually.
sit within the political spectrum. They've even got a super convenient app so you guys can check them out with the link in the top of the bio, ground.news/rattlesnake. That's ground.news/rattlesnake to help them with their mission to keep the news more transparent and to help out the channel. And now on to the next part.
I just want you to answer this one question. Do you understand that as a white man, you do not have to apologize for being white? You just have to acknowledge the racism that happens around you. That is all.
What racism happens around me?
Let's say that a racist
How you like playing a druid?
shoots me.
Too early to tell, but from the research I've done, it looks promising.
For you to be a white man, and you see that and don't say.
So here's where we're at right now. because I'm in experiment mode. Because Paladin felt the best out of all classes, 1 to about 40. As soon as I hit around there, it started really slowing down a lot and feeling not that great. And it's progressively gotten worse, and my gear is pretty fucking good. Now, Hunter and Warlock are really good, but I'm starting to get bored with the playstyle. Wait, let me finish Paladin first. Paladin, I would actually play Paladin right now if Seal of Command wasn't so fucking insanely RNG. Like, there's so much RNG. Sometimes it doesn't fucking proc at all. Like, none. Like, 0. And that is so terrible. When I'm on, like, the 4th or 5th mob in a row and it does not proc one time, that shit is so demoralizing. Because that ability is quite literally makes or breaks the Ret Paladin, in my opinion. And Ret Paladin is my all-time favorite spec in WoW history. That's why Wrath Ret Paladin is probably my favorite of all time. Dragonflight's pretty good, but Dragonflight is just a boring expansion. There's just too much bloat. Okay, so that's Paladin. So that's where we're at with Paladin. The only other thing that I may or may not try on Paladin at this point is tanking, but even then, like, I know what the in-game results are. In-game results, Paladins suck. They just suck at everything besides healing. And I don't know if I want to do that. However, if I do end up healing, I think I would choose Paladin out of all classes. Now, with that being said, let's go on to our most other played classes. We have Warlock and Hunter. Okay. Got my Warlock to 52. The Drain Tank build is super good. The problem with Warlock for me is it takes 4 fucking ever to prep to do anything. You have 50 million buffs that you have to keep activated. It takes 10 years to summon your pet. And shard management and bag management is atrocious with Warlock, and it's very annoying. When you die, it's hard to die, but when you do die, to get up and rolling again, if I'm doing world PvP, for example, or even if I die to a mob, which I don't think has even happened yet, but I normally die to players. But if I get corpse camped, I'm fucked. If I can't get my pet off and all my buffs off, and then it takes forever. So after you buff up and you get your pet out, you have no mana. You have to sit and drink, life tap, sit and drink, bandage up. You go through bandages like crazy. It's just so tedious just to get going. Then once you get going, it's a rotten dot playstyle that's very, like, slow. Warlock's very good. It's very tedious. It's super tedious, and it's annoying. It's like annoying tedious. You know what I'm saying? It's not fun to sit there and try to buff up 50 million buffs and then get your pet out and then manage the shards and then you could start doing your damage. Like, it's not fun. It starts to become very boring rotation. And then when I get to actual end game, I already know what the rotation is going to be. It's just going to be spamming one button over and over and over and over. Plus their mobility is just dog shit, and I like mobile classes. All right, what's the next most played class? I got Hunter. Hunter, I would actually love Hunter if they would change 2 things, which they do later on. Get rid of Dead Zone and get rid of you have to stand still to shoot. Now, I get it. The theme makes sense. It's the most realistic. If you were in, like, real life, actually, they did a good job of capturing, like, realisticness when it comes to, like, that whole thing. But how much damage does this do? But it's just, it's starting to become kind of like boring. Casters in general are starting to become boring. Now, Mage. I haven't played a lot of it recently, but from my memory, Mage is super good. It's pretty fun, but if you're not AoE leveling, you're playing the game wrong if you're trying to be efficient. Or if you want to, like, I might dabble with Mage still. I know they're good, but they just have to drink a lot. I hate drinking a lot. Rogue, I really just don't like the play style, and I fucking hate that there's a glancing blow mechanic, and that's what's gonna, like, divert me from probably playing Warrior as well. There's a hidden mechanic in this game called glancing blow, and it doesn't say it, but you're basically, what happens is your damage is like cut in half. It's like pseudo missing. It's like half missing. You hit the target, but it doesn't do full damage that it's supposed to do. And that happens quite frequently. Another thing that is very annoying about Rogue, and I don't know if it's going to be the same with Druid. We're going to find out. Is they're pretty weapon dependent, which I don't necessarily mind, because I did that with my Ret Paladin. But holy fuck, when you miss on a rogue, it's a big deal, and it's fucking annoying and very detrimental. And the way they use I probably will enjoy them PvP wise, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I just don't like the playstyle of Rogue. It just feels I feel like I've never liked Rogue. I can't, like, pinpoint a specific reason why I don't like him. I just don't like the playstyle, is the best way I can describe it. It's not that it's hard, per se. I like hybrid classes the most, in my opinion. I like being able to heal and do damage. That's why I think I'll like Feral. Feral was my all-time favorite melee back in WoD. Granted, it was a lot different back then, so I need something that I don't necessarily need it to be the best DPS in the game, but I don't want it to be the worst. And Red is like one of the worst, if not the second worst. It's pretty bad. Yeah, so I mean, we'll see how it goes, but I have a weird feeling that I'm gonna like it, which is good, right? So, I mean, hopefully we do like it. Let's see, what else have I played? Plus, I've already leveled the Warlock to 60 and a Hunter to 60 in the past, so I kind of want to do something different. Red is just so bad, unfortunately. It sucks. It really sucks. And they're super duper gear dependent. And the RNG, I hate RNG that's that, like, predominant. It's bad. The RNG is fucking insane. So that's what's making me not like Ret the higher I get. Every guide out there says that Ret scales terribly. Like, the first, like, half of the game, the first 30 to 40 levels, Ret is insane, which is true. They're fucking gross. Probably one of the best classes in the game. But man, I'm 50 now, 51, and it's starting to fucking, I'm starting to feel it, man, big time, and I don't like the way it feels. It feels terrible. Let's see what else. What else have I played? Oh, Shaman. Shaman, holy fuck, that's another class. That's probably my second least favorite class of all time. My least favorite class of all time is Rogue, and then after that, it's Shaman. Shaman, I do not like the way it feels in Classic. The totem management is so... It's almost overwhelming, and it's annoying. It's like an annoying... It's an annoyance that I don't like. Kind of like a Warlock, like all the different shard management and buff management and pet management. It's just annoying. It's not that it's hard. It's just it's tedious and stupid, and you're working extra hard for little to no gain. Does that make sense? Like, you're working extra hard for what? To still be on the bottom of the list? To still struggle and sweat your dick off in PvP? When a rogue can just come up to you and just ambush you and kill you instantly? Like, it's just fucking stupid. Or, I don't know, a rep paladin can just wreck bomb you effortlessly. So, even though Shaman does fucking shit on paladins pretty hard, they counter them pretty good. But so that's where we're at with Shaman. It's the totems and the mana. Oh my god, their mana is so bad. It's insane. Don't worry, buddy. I'll hit the mob for you since you're a pussy bitch. So we're in experiment mode. The only other class that I need to experiment with to see if I may or may not like it is Warrior, but I have a feeling I might not. Also, they're extremely oversaturated. Warriors, Mages, and Rogues are the 3 most played classes in this game. I also don't like usually playing what's the most played. Druid is actually one of the least played classes, but Feral is actually not bad. Actually, Feral is the 3rd best melee in the game. And if I don't like Rogue... if I don't like Rogue and Warrior, then I think Feral might be the play. As long as it's not super duper RNG, which I don't think it is. I think it's very consistent. It's pretty fucking good in World PvP too. It's not the best, but it's like top 2, top 3. It's like it's like on par. It can compete with basically Rogues and Hunters for top tier. They just have so much survivability and its escapability. It's nuts. So that's where we're at. That was a very long, tedious answer, but I'm hopeful. That's where we're at so far in our journey. We've tested a bunch. So Druid seems fun. I'll be always invited for Warsaw and Gulch games if I swap to Resto Feral, which is what we're gonna play. Oh, another thing that's why I'm interested in Druid is I can tank dungeons. It's the 2nd best tank in the game. Warrior being the best, but I think at low levels, I think Druid is the best. They're not super duper gear dependent either, so I mean, we'll see. They look promising. I mean, so far they're kind of fun, but everything's kind of fun at low levels, right? But it's like the jack of all trades kind of thing, so we'll see. It's probably gonna tell me to die now. Die on purpose. Yep. Alright, I need to kill myself, guys, so fuck off my spiders. I think Druid's going to be really good for farming, too. I got this. I'll never die. That right there is why we don't play hardcore. But we did that on purpose, so. Little shortcut trick.
Very good. I will have this egg and the venom transported to Darnassus, then return there when my studies are done here. I expect to find out a great
Up the
deal
ramp.
from specimens, adventurer. You have been a great help to me. Adventurer, is it? I heard that
One of my favorite starting zones of all time is
find him in the highest room atop
Night Elf.
Alderson.
Actually, my two first tunes I've ever made was a Night Elf and a it was a Night Elf Hunter and a Torn Hunter. I think Torn Hunter was the first. I don't know. I forget what I officially made first. But yep. It was back in the days. The very top of all the tree. Okay. So we'll see. We'll see how we do, how we like it.
Adventurer. I was hoping
They look fun to level. I think overall I like the melee playstyle in general in WoW. I like playing melee for the most part. Ret is my favorite class on retail, and then in retail it's also like Demon Hunter. Hand Shaman's pretty fun too, actually, but
there is a task you must perform. Go to the Moonwell north of
what else do I play?
Turn me a phial of its water.
I play Hunter probably the second most, but Hunter's different.
In just a moment.
But
I'll have
I
the
like
antidote prepared. The antidote is ready, adventurer. Please see that Ivern drinks it. There is
I like Ret the
something that
most.
you
I have the
should
most
know.
experience
The
on Ret.
antidote. It will only remain viable for 5 minutes. You must get it.
But
done.
I haven't played retail in like,
Speed be with you,
I don't know,
adventurer.
a fucking year now. So. Retail just is so boring. Like, they just give everything to you on a silver platter, and like, everything's effortless, and it's just, yeah, it's just, I don't know, boring.
Say anything about it.
Anyways, I don't even know if you're still here at this point,
I
but
believe that my community would be upset about that.
long answers, but yeah, we're in experiment mode. As of right now, if I had to choose, see, I can't even, I don't know. I still gotta try Shadow Priest too at some point. I got my priest to like almost 20. He's in the high teens. And then I gotta give mage another go. I know they're good, but it's finding the, like, are they fun? You know what I'm saying? Is the class fun? Supposedly Warrior's fun, so I gotta give Warrior. I gotta give Warrior a shot. So we'll see how fun this class is. If it's fun, the problem is people try to min-max too much and not enjoy the game. Like, find the class that you enjoy playing the most, then min-max. Min-max that class. You can make any class work. Just depends on what you're trying to do. If all you care about is topping the charts and being #1 DPS, just play fucking Warrior.
Until I feel completely
But you better enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, then
and I was hoping you'd clear a path for me through those.
I'm a multifaceted player. I like to be able to do good in dungeons. I like to be able to this is the one thing I don't like about the fucking Druid starting zone is there's a lot of grinding you have to do. It has nothing to do with the class, it's the starting zone. Fucking annoying. And then everyone and their mom is making a Druid and a Hunter right now. The fuck? God, everything's dead, man. They are very good kiters too. They say Hunter is the best kiter, but I don't know. Actually, I think it's Druid. Ooh, that's another thing. Druid fucks Hunters pretty hard, and they fuck mages. So the classes you see the most out in the world are warriors, rogues, hunters, mages. Actually, on the alliance side, you see a shit ton of paladins. I think a lot of people play paladin because it's easy. It is super easy to play paladin. Definitely the easiest class for sure, by far. Literally just auto attack. That's it. So far, I'm liking this place though. He resisted, you fuck. Oh, fuck me. I don't have any more water? Oh, that's right. I didn't buy any more. You asshole. I wanted to kill that thing. My elf warrior. Cringe! I farted. Apparently bear form is like insane too. Super tanky. Apparently you're supposedly more tankier than a warrior. It's just you don't do as much damage or have as much threat management, which is what makes them bad. Supposedly. We'll see. We'll test it out. We will test it out. I wonder if I get a move that gets rid of poison. I think it's called Abolish Poison as Druid. You can remove curses and poison as Druid, I think, which is dope. We can't be polyed either. Warlocks do fuck us though. I think Warlocks and Priests are a hard counter, if I remember correctly, because of Fear. Fear just shits on Druid. They don't have any way to like counter it or get out of it or anything. I don't even know if they have a... if their PvP trinket gets them out of it. I don't know. I have to look it up. Actually, we can look it up now. Let's look it up really quick. Let's go to PvP Alliance. Let's go insignias. Druid. Dispels charm, fear, and stun effects. That's actually really good for us because our weakness is charm, fear, and stun. We're not worried about poly because we can just shapeshift and we can't be polyed. Mage is insane too. Dispels all fear, polymorph, and slowing effects. They don't sit CC either because they can blink stuns. Yeah. They can block shit. Mages are fucking gross. So we need this trinket in order to be viable against warlocks and priests. I think are going to be our biggest issue. As long as I go like bear form, I should be fine against like warriors and shit. But we will see. No, it's gonna be interesting. I think we could do it. What's your favorite class so far? In vanilla. Kind of digging this class so far. It's good. It's important. Gotta find the class that you dig most.
Now, all you have to do as a white man, you don't have to get on the internet or on Twitter and say, I'm sorry for being white, but you should at least acknowledge the racism that happens around you.
I can't carry any.
Okay, well, yeah, if an individual act of racism happens.
That is just taking accountability for what happens around
Hold on a second. First of all, I don't have to be accountability for a whole race, do I? Why do I have to be accountable for the white race?
For yourself.
Right, so if I'm racist, I'll take responsibility for that.
But
thank you. So then why do I have to comment on somebody else's racism?
But what you should do is take accountability for the racism around you. Not pretend that it doesn't happen. Like, again, the example that I gave you, that if I was shot by a police officer and you found out that person was racist, right? Now,
but why would you say take responsibility? How can I take responsibility for somebody else's actions?
What you should do is just take accountability and say, hey, yes, that was racist, instead of saying, no, that officer was
It's not
racist.
taking accountability,
You
idiot.
gotta show me an instance and example, but we're talking about such a micro problem that doesn't exist. Do you know that a black person is 18.5 times more likely to shoot and kill a police officer than a police officer is to go and shoot an unarmed black man?
But is that the question that I asked you?
No, you asked a hypothetical about if I'm going to take accountability for a racist police officer.
So again...
But do you understand, if I inverted it on you, would you take accountability for all the blacks killing police in America?
That was funny.
No, would you? No. Why don't you take accountability for all the blacks killing police in New York?
I wouldn't take accountability for it, but what I would say is yes, there are a lot of black people in my community who do dumb things to other black people and to other white people. What I would not do is just pretend that it doesn't happen, so that, like I said, you as a white man has to do the same thing.
I acknowledge it happens. I also acknowledge it's rare than lightning striking you when you're outside.
That's it.
But let me ask you, who is Tony Timpa?
That's all I wanted you to. That's all I wanted you to do. Thank you.
I acknowledge it's rare, and I'm not going to have to take responsibility for an entire race at all. It's wrong and it's terrible. I wish we could have continued the conversation.
This is what your taxpayer dollars are funding, ladies and gentlemen. So just an acknowledgement is all we need, hey? And then all of the BLM riots will stop.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
And killer cops must be prosecuted. They are murderers. We can turn the tide. It is time to take responsibility. Call out hate. Step up and take action.
So I guess anytime something ever happens to anybody who is black or white, people just have to acknowledge that that was racism without asking any questions. Okay, first of all, they are the ones ascribing racism to these situations. They are the ones who see race in everything. White police officers have the same dealings with white people all the time. And like Charlie said, the likelihood of a black man to kill a police officer is much higher than the reverse. So then with your own logic, that's just racism, right? Surely that's racism. So then you would have to take responsibility for that, and you would have to acknowledge this because your skin pigmentation is kind of similar to the person who did the crime who you've never met.
That was funny.
I don't think so, because just like when something happens to a black man at the hands of a white man, you have to provide proof that that was racially motivated. And the inability of him to provide an actual example there, and the subsequent
I got my mail.
the most painfully generic hypothetical says all you need to know. If you want to call things racist, then show the evidence and also be consistent. And now on to the next part, where Jeffrey Dahmer actually steps up to ask Charlie a question that would probably have Charlie's security team on high alert.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Dangerous beasts in the forests of Lake.
All right, the last question. Good.
I'll try to keep it spicy for y'all. What's up, Charles, man? You're on record for stating, and I quote, "This is the gayest generation of America." What are your overall thoughts on this? Because some of your opponents seem to believe you have homosexual tendencies.
Okay.
Well, it is the gayest generation ever. Every fact shows that more young people are gay than any other generation. So, is there something you'd like to tell me, or do you want to just read off a phone and parrot?
Oh no, I wrote down that question obviously because it was a quote. So I mean, I didn't want to mess it up and you come for me or anything like that. So like I said, man, what are your overall thoughts on that?
On my thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my record of my marriage speaks for itself. But is there something you want to tell us about your own?
I mean, you don't gotta accuse me of being gay. Just because you're married, don't mean that you're not homosexual yourself.
Well, you came up here asking about the gayest generation. I got some questions about you, man.
I mean, yeah, man. I mean, you're coming to my campus that I represent, calling us, you know, one of the gayest generations.
It is
in America.
1 out of 5 young people are lesbian, gay, or trans.
And even though I don't,
the gayest generation ever.
Congrats, man.
Congrats? No, it's not a good thing, actually.
Well, I mean, my point is, you're coming to our campus, you know, obviously saying that. And,
no, I didn't say it. You repeated it, but I'm happy to defend it.
You did say it. You did quote it.
No, not early in my speech, but I'm happy to repeat
well,
it.
Not in your speech, obviously.
Yeah, it is the gayest generation in American history. That's a fact. Do you disagree with that?
No, I don't disagree with that because I feel like we've been
then
able
what's the question here?
My question was just, what are your overall thoughts on the quote? And, you know...
I defend the quote.
Okay. Cool. Appreciate your time, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Internet's gonna love that one. Yeah, you'll be real famous.
It's not every day that you get Jeffrey Dahmer accusing you of being a homosexual, guys. And I wonder what he meant there by homosexual tendencies. I hope he wasn't generalizing and stereotyping, but really impressive there. High-level stuff, and I think that all of his friends will be super impressed by his trolling, and maybe, if he's lucky, he might even get his pee-pee touched before he leaves college.
He gave one pee-pee touch. It must be sent to innkeeper Kelderman at the Dolanau Inn. It lies along the road.
How embarrassing. So guys, don't forget to hit those links for ground news at the top of my bio. And also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, you can click right here. And if you'd like to watch another video, right here. Till next time, I'm Jake. This is Rattlesnake TV, keeping you armed and dangerous.
And you know, his giant strength that people don't talk about, and no one in mainstream media acknowledges this, he doesn't look fake. I think he's a con man, and he's been a con man his whole life, but he looks authentic because he doesn't go off a prompter. And you think, well, that's a real guy. He's saying crazy crap that nobody else would say. And all the other politicians look like actors. They're robots. They come out. Like Pete Buttigieg came out from a factory. Everybody knows that, right? Gavin Newsom, but also DeSantis and McConnell. They're all robots. They come in, I will do this. I have been told by my donors this is great policy, right? And so he has a feeling of authenticity. But if you look at his records, like you say, great in real estate, he's awful in real estate. In Atlantic City, he built 3 casinos. Everybody said, you're going to cannibalize it, you moron, your own business. And you know, one of his top assistants says he just likes his name in lights. So he'd like to see Trump in Atlantic City, and he bankrupted all 3 because he sucks at business.
You think you're good in business?
Yes.
You think you're good in business?
Yes.
Jank.
Yes.
Seriously?
100%.
Okay, so when's your birthday, by the way? What month's your birthday? Let me see. March 30, 21st. It's okay. Yeah. You're a Pisces? You're a Pisces?
Aries, beginning of Aries.
Oh, you made it to Aries?
Yes.
Interesting. My dad's in Aries. I get along with Aries. Okay. So he's on April 10th. You're March. So you barely are in Aries, though, by 1 day, right?
Beginning of the spring.
Okay.
You made the cut, man.
Yeah,
you made it.
So, okay. Bro, when you say that, you know, for me, I feel like if there's anybody that would be like a pro-Trump guy in a confusing way, it would be you. Okay, I know this is like, this guy's lost his mind. You have no clue who the F I am. Are you crazy? There's no way. Because in business, you know, do you have a perfect record with business? No. Do I have a perfect record with business? No.
Nobody does. Yeah.
Nobody does. But, you know, has Trump taken it to certain levels that his dad didn't take it? Yeah, that's not easy to do. His dad wasn't as famous as this guy got. It's a very hard work to do that. There's a lot of kids that are spoiled kids from a rich father who don't do shit with the money, and they become crack addicts, and they become drug addicts, and they hire prostitutes all the time, and they go try to sell their laptops at different places, and they, you know, I'm not saying about anybody specific, but this happens every once.
Saying it about somebody specific.
This kind of stuff does happen every once in a while, right? There's stories like that you hear. I was like, oh, okay, this guy's gonna make it. This guy's not gonna make it. So there is something about him. One can say John F. Kennedy became a president because of his father, Joseph Kennedy, because okay, fine. And Joseph Kennedy became successful because his dad had all this money from. Okay, fine. Okay, there's some of it that's got to go to the credit of the individual. Perfect. So, if I listened to you and I didn't know who you were, okay, and I just came to America, and I've heard about this Trump guy, and I've heard about the Biden guy, and I'm listening to you, I would say that guy is angry at Trump for what reason? He's either envious of Trump, he's angry with him because he sounds personal. He doesn't sound like he's being reasonable. He sounds he's being personal when he's attacking Trump. And I think he loses credibility a little bit for taking the angle that he does. Because you're coming from a place of saying this guy got this much money and he became rich because of this, and he's a loser, he's a this. The guy was on Oprah Winfrey, 1988. And Oprah Winfrey says, so hey, you sound like somebody that's gonna, you've seen this, you sound like somebody that's gonna run for office one day. No. Well, do you have any plans? No, but if I ever did, I would win. Who the hell says that? That's like a Babe Ruth call. You know, when you say, I'm going to hit the home run, you point the finger and you hit it. His book crushed it. His show crushed it.
Don
crushed it in
Moreau?
New York going up against all these other guys. He's done good with women. He's done good with his kids. He became a president. I don't know. Love him or hate him. I don't have a relationship with him. So there is not like I'm defending this guy. I'm doing it. We're in Florida because of DeSantis. We came here because all of a sudden DeSantis, I'm watching him market. I'm like, dude, you're not even out there doing your part marketing. Finally, he's getting to it, and now everybody's asking a question that they shouldn't be asking you, which is what? Why are you so down on the polls? Can you make a comeback? You should have never allowed these people to ask that question if you would have played offense earlier. But when you see a winner and complicated individual, a misunderstood individual, I don't know how many people you're going to put on the list as Trump in the history of America, by the way. Whether you love this guy or hate this guy, it's kind of tough to, demonize the guy's resume. And I know you like to do this, but it's kind of tough to do it.
Not remotely tough.
You think so?
So, Pat, look, I'm giving you nuanced answers. I'm telling you that he's anti-establishment in some ways, and that's part of his appeal.
Right.
I'm telling you he's good at marketing, and almost everything you're saying is he's good at marketing. He was good on TV. He was good at marketing his book. He went on Oprah. It's marketing.
No, you said he wanted two things, and what I did is I showed his resume. That's more than two things. It's a bunch of different things that he wanted. That was my defense to you saying he only wanted two things, not the marketing side.
Pat, imagine if your dad gave you $413 million.
Which we don't know that's the number, but you're saying $413 million.
Yeah, New York Times says this was $413
New York Times also said science is,
New York Times,
I have to take the
New York
COVID or
Times has
else.
also lied about me. I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, but his dad was enormously wealthy.
There's no question about it.
Enormous fortune.
Yeah.
And which he lost.
413 by today's standards, or what was it back then? What was the actual?
14 million is the
okay, I thought
number
it was
you
like
hear about.
No way. It's look, I forget. I think it's by today's standards, but I'm not positive.
Yeah.
Okay,
Could have been 413.
but it's not
back
14 to 413. That's not how inflation works. So, but Pat, if they gave it to you, you'd probably be worth $4 billion.
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't
come
know.
on,
No,
it's such an enormous
Cenk, do you have
advantage.
kids? Cenk, do you have kids?
Yes.
What are you talking about, bro? Let me unpack this for you. So, one of the hardest things to do is to be the pastor's kid. Are you kidding me? Like the pastor's kid is like, so you got to be a virgin till you get married. I'm gonna go freaking smoke weed. Dude. I'm so sick and tired of this pressure. What are you gonna be this? No, I'm not, bro. I remember we're at a church. We're going to the church. The pastor's son. You ready for this? This is a pastor loved by so many people. His son gets arrested across the street from the church with a crew of players taking stuff from Best Buy. And the pastor's gonna come on Sunday and preach in front of 20,000 members. So the point I'm trying to make to you is nobody wants to be Michael Jordan's kids. Nobody wants to be Brady's kid. The level of pressure and scrutiny of wanting to do that, trust me, I understand the level of influence and additional cards and stuff that you can get. But we did a research on a generational wealth. I got kids, and I'm trying to see how do I set it up for my kids to get my wealth without them being spoiled. Okay, so it's something that's important to me. I kind of want to figure out. I'm in a community, a couple families do it right, so I said, let me go out and study this to see how to do it right. Vanderbilt, do you know how long the wealth lasted? This guy was the richest man in the world, giving money back to the country. You know how many generations money lasted? 2 generations.
It's always two generations.
The only wealth that lasted 7 generations, the Medici. Medici lasted 7 generations. It's the only one. Every other one is 2, 3. Rockefeller's still on 4 right now. They're not even on 5, 6, 7. So the notion when you're saying like if you would have had a head start, bro, a lot of people you give them money, they become spoiled little brats. I had a guy I interviewed who lives in Seattle. You know what his job was? He managed the Templeton family, 16 grandkids. You know what his job was?
While you are here, please.
His job was, he was the guy dealing with billionaire families, and the reason why Seattle, you know why Seattle, Amazon, Microsoft, all those guys, there's all these billionaires and guys worth 100 million that no one knows who they are. He's worth 28 million.
Earn herbalism, need herbalism, so you can gather 5 Earth Root issue quests.
He says my biggest job with these guys was to make sure they didn't do drugs, they didn't do alcohol. But you know what the biggest problem with me was? He says, what's that? They typically came
fine,
to me
I want
too
herbalism
late.
anyways.
They came to me too late, that I couldn't do anything about it. Dude, this guy's never drank alcohol. He's never done drugs. He doesn't do that. I mean, that kind of stuff to come from that amount of opportunity to screw
Yo, where's my fucking Hearthstone?
6
Hello?
bankruptcies. I mean, just no. Look, people make mistakes in business. If you're not making mistakes, you're not really a businessman. Like, there's no question. I get it, right? And I'd cut him a lot of. I'd cut any business person a lot of slack for. You got a bankruptcy. You got 2 bankruptcies. It happens. 6. He's never had a successful business. Trump steaks, Trump water, Trump casinos. You can't name a successful business. He bought an airplane company. He put gold seats in an economy airline and immediately went bankrupt. He's terrible at business. But look, if you say it's personal, well, number one, it isn't, because I'm giving you nuance on both sides, okay? But having said that, look, it got personal when he lost the election in 2020 and said, screw it, I'm going to try a coup. I'm going to do these fake electors scheme. I'm going to try to rob America of its democracy just so I can stay in power. Screw that guy. And if any of you are voting for that guy who's totally un-American, who betrayed this country, you're nuts, and he won't ever leave office. He's a wannabe dictator. He always praises dictators, whether it's Xi in China, whether it's Kim Jong-un in North Korea, Putin. He's always saying, oh, they get all the applause when they walk in. No one is allowed to disagree with them. And then freedom, my ass. He hates freedom. He wants to take away everyone's freedom so that all the power goes to him, okay? So, no, Pat, look, you can...
I'm not laughing at you. It's entertaining what you're saying, and
it's 100% true.
I can see... Okay, so let me ask you a different question. Who do you trust more, him or Biden?
I don't trust either one of them. It's not about trust.
Fair. Okay, so who do you see more? If your choices are the 2 guys right now, are you going to sit this one out?
Oh, no way. I'm going to vote Biden because I want another election. I don't. Okay. If you put Trump back in charge, there's at least a 50% chance we're never going to have another election.
So let me ask you this other question. To the people who, when Hillary lost, you've seen that clip when Hillary lost. It's one of the greatest. Bill Burr said it best when he was on Conan O'Brien. He says, look, man, forget about the Olympics, Russia, U.S., forget about, the home run, forget about this. He says, dude, this guy beat Hillary Clinton. It's like the people lost their minds, right? What did Hillary Clinton do for 4 years? You know what she did. She went around campaigning around what? They stole the election. They stole the election. They stole the election. And we...
What do you mean before, Pat? Before she was doing it with all that bullshit.
But they didn't say that he physically stole the election. There's a giant difference. Saying, oh, boo-hoo, which he did, of like, oh, the Russians interfered in the election, which, by the way, they did, but not enough to make the difference, okay? But that's just crying after you lost. Whereas Donald Trump had a scheme of fake electors to do a goddamn coup.
So I got to follow.
Hillary did not do
and she
that.
Did
I can't stand Hillary.
And she did actually concede.
Wait, hold on.
She conceded.
So, well, here's my question, Cenk. So let's say you are Trump. You legitimately win the election. Hold on.
Don't use the word legitimate.
Time out. You won in 2016. You find out all these years later with the Durham report and all that shit that not only did Hillary help set up lawyers, the dossier, everything. How can you blame somebody for not trusting the FBI or everything in 2000?
That's a good question.
I wouldn't trust anybody.
Okay, so look, when he asked for a recount, I said, hell yeah. When he asked for a hand recount, I said, hell yeah. Why? Progressives have been asking to verify elections for decades.
Do I want to do enchanting, or do I want to do...
some Bernie supporters back in 2016 said,
alchemy.
No,
I feel like I want to do enchanting. I just want to level fast and make money. And I swear, it used to be...
Democratic parties. That's true.
It used to be skinning herbalism. Now I think it's herbalism enchanting. Enchanting is nuts.
Evidence. And our side didn't. So I said, no, I don't care how angry you get at me. Hillary Clinton did not steal the votes in those elections in the primary in 2016. So when you get to Trump, if he says, hey, I want to recount, great, but they did. They recounted 3 times. They did hand recounts. Then they went to court 60 times. And guys, this is definitive. He couldn't present one piece of evidence. He had 60 shots at it. You know why he couldn't present one piece of evidence? Because there is no evidence. There is no evidence, and he knows it. He made it up from day one. He's a giant liar. He's always been a pathological liar. And he came in and was like, oh, I don't like losing. I don't like losing. I don't like it. Boo-hoo. Oh, I think they stole it. They made up 7 million votes. Hugo Chavez, they blamed the Kraken. All these insane donkeys or mules or whatever the hell. Get out of here. Hey, all of MAGA, show me one piece of evidence in court, not BS. Oh, I said it on TV, doesn't that count? No, all you ever do is lie on TV. All the politicians lie on TV. Go to court, show the evidence. Until then, shut up and stop trying to steal elections and stop hating America. America's about elections, it's about democracy.
So by the way, you know, I will say this to you if you could. I will say this to you. So you're right when it comes down to if you think the other person is guilty, show the proof and go through it. That's the whole thing with innocent until proven guilty. Totally get it. But bro, mainstream media ran for 3.5 years that Trump, Russia, all that stuff. I'm not saying you, I'm saying mainstream media ran against them 3.5 years every day. This guy thought Russia got him elected. I mean, people that we know, smart guys.
But brother, mainstream media hates progressives. They've destroyed our movement.
I'm not.
Am I saying, we won the election?
But I said to you, I said not you. I said not you. I said mainstream media.
But my point is, Pat, you got to play the playing field. That's true for me. That's true for Trump.
Sure.
Right. So yes, mainstream media hates him. Yes, they did propaganda against him for 3.5 years. But that's the playing field, right?
Totally get it. No, it's totally fine. They have the edge. Listen, Republicans, if they want to have that, go buy some media companies and compete directly.
Yeah.
Musk is buying Twitter. Great. Go at it. Play your game if you're going to do what you're going to do.
Murdoch influences elections more than anyone else.
Murdoch is right now more at a whole different place. He's not a Team Trump guy. You know that, bro. He's not. But where I was going to this is the following. Okay. So the part for me that got confusing was the following. Okay. Do you remember during COVID, I had a lady named Judy Mikovits on, who used to work with Fauci in 1980s with the AIDS thing. Oh my God. It was like, boom, 2 million views. Taking that. Short clip, strike. What? Okay, let's interview this other guy. Boom. Strike. Okay, all right. Boom, strike. They took like 40 of our videos down during COVID. And we kept doing the interviews, and we were not like, well, this is 5G. Remember the whole 5G thing? Like, that fizzled out very quickly. Everybody thought it was a 5G. But there was a community that was like, well, this is what's going on. Here's what they're doing. This is what they're doing. Okay, cool. You know, we're like, all right, let's kind of take a look at to see what's going on. Election claims. Yeah, this is what they did, you know, the drop and blah, 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 blah. Okay. Yeah, election fraud has been going on for a long time. Okay, this ain't anything new. It was something known for Democrats that would do a lot with John F. Kennedy, Dewey, all this stuff, and it's been going on for many, many years. Great. Okay, they're doing that. But if you put up any clips disputing it, guess what? You were getting strikes, and they were taking those videos down. Then 2-3 months ago, YouTube comes out and saying, moving forward, we're no longer taking those videos down. They can stay up, okay? Why would YouTube do that? Why would YouTube not allow it for 2.5 years and all of a sudden YouTube, can you pull up that clip on YouTube, change their guidelines on election claim or whatever? Like, no, moving forward, we're not going to take it down and we're changing our guidelines for it. So I'm not saying one or the other, but did YouTube behind closed doors, are they worried about a Twitter files coming out? Are they worried about, YouTube changed its policy to allow false claims about past U.S. presidential elections. YouTube will stop removing content that falsely claims the 2020 election or other past U.S. presidential elections were marred by widespread fraud, errors, or glitches, the platform announced Friday. This is what, AP News? Less than 2 months ago. It's exactly 2 months ago, it was when they put it up. Why would they do that?
I'm
curious. I want to hear your theory what they would do.
Yeah, because now every Republican believes it. Like 8 out of 10 Republicans believe it. So what are they going to do, ban every Republican? So I think they got to a point where they're like, we give up. Every right-winger believes this nonsense that's totally made up. So we can't ban all the right-wingers, so we just got to let him say it.
How much of it is, well, you know, these guys on Rumble are kind of picking up some
Not
steam.
really. Rumble
No?
sucks. It's got no steam at all. Steven Crowder's career is dead. Everybody who's on Rumble's dead.
Steven Crowder's career is dead.
Of course, he went to Rumble. 3 people watched that. That's a terrible mistake. He should have taken the Daily Wire deal. I forget politics, right? Daily Wire offers him $50 million. He could have stayed on YouTube. He would have been relevant and had more money. It was a disastrous decision by him. Look, I'm happy to be wrong. If it turns out Rumble does great going forward, I'll come back and say I was wrong. But I'm telling you,
the top
anybody
guys
who's on
on Rumble right
gone.
now. Obviously, Fresh and Fit is on there. Sneako's on there. Not that
I
they're
mean,
in the
look, you'll
political.
find 2 or 3 people who are getting views, but on YouTube, the whole world is getting views.
Right.
YouTube is taking over the planet. And that's part of why they're doing this, because they're like, what are we going to do? Not allow any right-wingers on YouTube? But if you guys say they're a little worried about competition, fair, no problem. I'm sure they consider that their business.
So we got 2 theories so far. Your theory is 8 out of 10 Republicans believe the election was fraud. So that's like, hey, let's not lose a Republican. Republicans buy shoes as well. That's kind of your angle where you're taking. You're saying Rumble's giving them competition. Maybe that's it. Maybe let's add Twitter in it because Twitter's eventually going to be doing videos. So I think actually Twitter's a bigger fear to YouTube than Rumble is.
Probably.
No matter how much they trash Twitter, I think Twitter's going to eventually figure that. I don't think Elon's a guy that gives up easily.
It's called X now. Let's have a little respect.
I don't know how to say I'm going to X. Go read my X. I just exceeded something. It's kind of weird, right? So, but we'll adjust to it. Yeah, we'll adjust to it. But to me, that was kind of weird when they did that. And you know, my other theory was maybe, you know, the whole, like I said earlier, Twitter files information came out. How many people on the Fauci side were, you know, embarrassed on what's going on? Even Rand Paul came out here and announces official criminal referral Fauci COVID is a lie. Page 11, I'll read this story here, Rob, if you want to pull it up. Senator Rand Paul made an official criminal referral to the Department of Justice accusing Dr. Anthony Fauci of perjury during this testimony about COVID-19 and funding gain-of-function research in China's Wuhan lab. Paul called for an investigation into Fauci's knowledge of dangerous virus research. Fauci faced criticism after released emails revealed he knew about gain-of-function research in Wuhan lab. Despite denying it during previous testimony, the Government Accountability Office confirmed Wuhan Institute of Virology and Wuhan University received NIH funding for coronavirus research. The debate over COVID-19 origin continues, with some officials suspecting a lab leak theory due to the Wuhan lab's location and research history, while others support a natural spillover event from animals. So are they afraid that maybe a YouTube Files is going to come out and they're going to show behind closed doors communication with Fauci about not allowing those types of videos to be shown? I don't know. Are YouTube Files going to come out, email saying, hey, you can't let them show these clips about, you know, what they're doing with the election and what happened to it, and those videos with this mules and all this stuff. You can't let those guys got to be taken down. This is creating too much momentum. Maybe. Could it be that they were afraid for maybe additional stuff to come out with communication with Biden? I don't know. Like, I remember when they changed. One of my favorite things about YouTube, I don't know if you like this or not, I loved it, when you could give a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Yeah.
You know, I love the thumbs down thing, because I'm like, we would do a video, I'm like, damn, I thought this was a good video. They hated this video. You know, the ratios was so bad with thumbs down to thumbs up. Biden's videos, I don't know if you remember this, guy. Dude, when he was campaigning, it was like 28,000 likes, 600,000 dislikes.
Yeah, it was bad.
Like every video's like to dislike ratio was astronomical. It got so bad, and out of nowhere, during election, they said, due to mental and anxiety for kids, we're going to get rid of thumbs down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
feelings over logic.
Yeah. So you know, some of this stuff maybe for me, where YouTube is sitting there saying Twitter's becoming real competition. The last thing we want is the government to start investigating some of our emails and what we did, and what if this stuff leaks?
Yeah,
that could be a theory.
And check, if we're going to talk about cheating, the FBI working with the White House, and or just do to censor stories and don't put out, you know, how many was it? 80% of voters or 75 were like, if we knew about the Hunter Biden laptop and what Biden, everything that's coming out right now, we wouldn't have voted for him. That's, if we're gonna talk about interference and cheating, the guy that's sitting in right now, and I know you're not a fan. Nope, I don't think anybody at this point is, but that is hands down cheating with the Department of Justice. And now it's like, nobody Nobody really cares. But
I mean, look, you can make the same argument for if James Comey hadn't come out with the Anthony Weiner laptop, Hillary Clinton wins, right? And so did they rig the election in favor of Donald Trump the first time around? So there's a ton of factors that go into an election. In terms of YouTube, I think they mainly took it away for like political correctness / mental health reasons, etc. But I don't mean it for Biden. I mean it like kids these days are very upset if anyone does a thumbs down.
Who cares?
Right?
They need that.
No, because they care about kids, because that's a huge, huge part of their audience. But in terms of Biden, of course he gets 600,000 dislikes. Why? 2 reasons. Number one, he's a fake politician, and people don't like fake politicians on YouTube. And number two, because the Republican troll army is gigantic. They like the Democratic trolls barely exist, although now on the radical left there's some, right? But the right wing is all trolls, so they're of course but those are, look, Pat, I know YouTube, and it's a giant business. Those are minuscule concerns for them.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast,
all right, I think I'm gonna go to bed.